Morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be doing a little bit of work with the scanner of our CM machine. So this week we're focusing on the CM as it hasn't been out for a while. So rather than focusing on other things. So if you do have questions about things like the Canvas update, please ask in the stream. Now I have got to do a little bit of housekeeping this morning and say please do not post links to other people's videos on my stream. Thank you very much. Unfortunately we did have somebody last night who commented with another YouTuber's video. So going forward what I will probably be doing is turning off comments on YouTube, and should it happen in a live stream, I will move to having the live streams for members only. So, with that little bit aside, let's get started. So, today I'm going to be using a set of dies from Apple Blossom. Now, not all die manufacturers like using your die with your machine. The exact reason is that they think that you're going to be running off loads and loads and loads of their dies. For most scanning cutters, this is far from the truth. What we actually want to do is have a reference. So I wanted to show you today how we can use our scans of our dies to actually help us when we're designing our card. So, with that in mind...
Carol's this morning and so does Linda.
Morning! So, hi Carol, hi Linda. And probably hiding in the depths of YouTube is my mom and Tracy. So hello.
They haven't said anything yet.
So, in my scan mat, I have a white die cut and our two other panels. Now, the difference in terms of why have I done that one white and that one colour, it doesn't matter. What matters is the contrast between our die cut colour and our background. So you'll notice I've also put in a piece of dark card at the back of our scan mat, because usually it would be white. So if I can get that on stream, like so. Now I've found when I'm scanning die cuts, if I do them in black and scan them on the white background, it's not always accurate, because when your mat goes through the scanner, it shines a light on it, obviously, to scan it. Now that light can cast shadows, and it also can be interfered with by the ambient light in the room. So this is my way of solving that issue. By going for a light coloured die cut and a dark background, it means that any shadow that's created by that die cut is just going to make that dark background darker. So it's going to actually emphasise that contrast rather than mudding it up and confusing it. So, yeah, I hope Cindy behaves herself today as well. Mind you, I have to say, I was working with her yesterday and she was being very good, and we've started to create, I can't show you, but we started to create a 3D clock. So that's using things like basic circles, alignment. So if that's something you'd like to see on stream, just let me know. I can't show you the die yet. Morning Deb, and welcome back from your walk. So hi Badger and Rabbit too. Okay, so I'm going to load my mat. So for this entire process, make sure that your blade is removed from your machine. The last thing you want to do is accidentally scratch this top sheet. Now there's only one occasion where you use, well sorry, two occasions where you use the scan mat. So if we go into scan, you're going to see that you've got direct cut, scan to cut data, and scan to USB. Now direct cut is where you're going to cut something straight out of the card that you're scanning, so that one will not work with your scan mat. So you discount that one straight away. Morning Dulcie! Scan to cut data is the one that we're going to be using, which is where it's going to trace the scan. And finally you have scan to USB. Now scan to USB is where you want to scan what's in your scan mat and save it as an image to use on your computer. So not necessarily for tracing on your computer, but you could scan letters and things like that. It is not the most detailed scanner. Even on the DX it's only a 600. So if you want to be scanning things like photos and you want to scan them at the same size as they are, that is fine. If you want to take those photos and blow them up to a maximum of 200%, so twice the size, that is fine. However, if you are wanting to do black and white, for instance, if you've done a lovely line sketch, then this is not the machine to do it on. That's when you need your flatbed scanner, and that's when you push your DPI up to its top end, which is usually 1200 or 2400 DPI. There you go. A little lesson in DPI for you this morning. Wasn't planning that one. Okay. So, scan to cut data. Recognition mode. Now, if I go into the screwdriver setting, you have two recognition modes. One which is colour and one which is black and white. Now, what that should actually say is high contrast or low contrast. So we've got a reasonably high contrast, so I'm going to be going black and white in a minute. Colour is for if you are scanning something on a coloured or patterned background, something where it's going to have to work a bit harder to be able to see where that design is. So I'm going to go black and white. And black and white has a few more options when we get to the other end, so it's a good one to kind of go with. We go OK. We'll go start. It's going to think about it. Do a little tap dance while you're waiting, and there we go. So down the side you can see that you have three options. You have one where it will go all the way around the outside of everything, so think of that as like your shadow layer. You have one where it will go around the outside and inside of everything, so that's how it's going to pick up the details of the flowers. And then the final option won't work on this scan, but it's for if you have a template out of a magazine, for instance, or you've drawn some writing or a drawing that you want it to be able to use the foil quill with, so that you're basically ending up with a single line design. So they are all equally useful. And let's get into it. So, first of all, let's go with our first option. And you can see it's going to go around the outside of each of our rectangles. Okay? Now, let's see if I can get you a better view of that pie cut. There we go. So you can see it on the little screen. So at this point, as you're happy with that, what it's come out with, what you need to do now is you need to consider whether you want all these three elements as one file, which you can do, or you can click and drag your window so that it comes in. That means it's going to literally just have that one item as an independent file. When you're happy with that, go preview, And it's then going to go, yep, that's what I was thinking. I'm going to go save. And I'm going to go to USB. So we know that it's number 3. Okay. We can then move that window without changing the option. Make sure that you have all the shape in so that you can manage to get around it and go preview. And again, it's gone round the outside of our box. And we can save that again. USB, number 4. Now, when we're saving files on our Scan and Cut, it doesn't give us the option for changing file names. So what I would say is, once you've done all of your scans, do pop your USB into your PC or your Mac and just rename those files, maybe put them into a folder so you keep all of them together, especially something like this where you've got lots of little pieces, because it's not always going to be apparent on the preview what it is that you've got going on. So again, move that window across, preview, and save to USB. Okay. So we've done our 3 outside of our panels. Now we want to look at this detail within. So I'm going to move my window back open. So it's going to go all the way out. I'm going to go preview. Even though we're not going to actually use that element. Now I'm going to go and do outside and inside. And now you can see it's picked up all that little detail. And you can go, right, okay, I might want to have all that detail with that outside frame. Like so. And that's okay. We can go preview. And we can go save. USB. Number 6. But what if you just want to have that inside dimension? No, the door is still squeaking. I think it needs like some bananas rubbed on it or something. Miracle to make that thing not squeak, I think. So this is where it's going to get a little bit more tricky. We want to slide our window so that it cuts into at least one edge. So you can see I've left this top edge where it is, and I've just moved it in so this bottom right hand arrow is just past the edge of the card. Now that means that when it's looking at it, it's going to see that pattern a bit differently. So now instead of seeing the white section, what it's actually seeing is all the individual black sections instead. So we can go preview, and we can save that too. USB, and that's number 7. Okay, so if I pull this back out, if we go to this one, just to show that it's going to be a bit weird how it picks it up, so you can see it's got random lines out this way and so on and so forth. So one of the things to also say about the scan mat is make sure you try and keep it as clean as possible, because the slightest little speck it will pick up. Yeah, furniture polish will lubricate. We used to always do that to the old Christmas tree. There you go. Blast from the childhood. The smell of furniture polish makes you think of Christmas. Okay. So, let's unload the mat, and then we can actually play with these designs. So, unload.
Have you saved that?
Yeah. I've saved 4, 5, 6 and 7 to play with, I think.
Hey.
Was it 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7? Might be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So let's first of all pop you back up straight. and switch over. Okay, so now we can remove our die cuts. Now, there isn't an electronic cutter yet that can rival a die cut edge, which is why I'm always a bit like, really, you think people are going to cut loads and loads of images with their electronic cutter rather than their die cutter? No, it's not going to happen. Okay, so the parts of your scan mat. There's a plastic cover here. When you first get it, loads of people think they have to take this off. Don't do it, keep it attached. What you do need to remove is there's a blue protective strip that goes over this scan area here. And it's to keep this area white. That needs to be taken off so that you reveal the white area. When you are cleaning your mat, you want to make sure that there's absolutely no dirt on this white strip. That is how it gets its contrast for when it's scanning. So if you're finding you're having contrast issues, make sure that that strip is completely clean. This top sheet can also crease, so try and, when you're storing it, either store it flat or store it hanging, but don't put anything on top that might potentially crease that, because it will come through on your scans. Now, if you don't think that you're ever going to use that to create files, then you don't need to buy a scanning mat. And even if you do scan to cut data, you can usually get around it. It's only if you are going to be doing lots of die cuts that you're going to want to get a scan mat. So, any questions yet? Nope, okay. So, back to close cam. Hello, Trouble.
Yeah.
Posting done.
Yeah.
Okay, so all orders are currently dispatched. Woohoo! And we're going to go home. And it's going to make you panic at this point, because it's going to say okay to delete all patterns, and just go okay, because we saved everything to the USB. We can go to pattern, save data, and we know we put it on the USB. And I'm going to move past my folders and past my name files to get to the U's. So there's my U's, starting at U3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So those are the ones that we're going to be working with today. So let's say you want to use a drawing pattern, for instance, on one of those shapes. So if I bring in my die cut on here, basically it layers up like so. So we've got a stitch rectangle, and we've got a plain rectangle that goes on top. So you might want to put in a pattern on this stitch rectangle, or you might want to put a sentiment on this centre rectangle. So I'm going to start with our thinner rectangle. So that's this middle one here. I'm going to go OK and add it to my mat. Now at the moment you can see it's got like this kind of jagged edge to it. And what that line is saying is that it's not that the line itself is jagged. It's that when we put the die cut on our mat, we're not always going to get it perfectly square on. So it's taking what should be that straight line and it's rotating it. But because we're looking at it on a smaller screen, that means the resolution isn't going to be as good. It's not like you've got a iPhone Retina screen in there. So you're going to start to see that there's going to be moments when that line is going to break because it's on a very slight angle. Coincidentally, there's only 3 angles that it can do and show it perfectly. So That's something to bear in mind. The chance of you getting it smack on when you do it, give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, I'm going to go to add. I'm going to go into my words and I'm going to pick something to put in the middle. So I'm thinking something long and thin. Trouble is, I have ones that I know I go to all the time, so I'm trying to be good and not go for the same ones. Let's go for home. Home is quite literally where the heart is on this one. And I'm just going to go set, because I want to be able to use our original rectangle to actually size that. So first of all I'm going to go into rotate, and I'm going to put it more or less back square. Now you can use your 1 degrees, but sometimes 1 degree isn't enough, but that looks pretty close. So there is our rectangle. Now if we select on our home and go OK, I'm going to shrink it down because we want it to fit in that rectangle. Maybe slightly more just to get that height in. I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to zoom in just so I can see how that's fitting. I quite like that, how it's done that. So I'm going to go OK. Now that we've done that, we don't need to have this rectangle anymore. So we can take that away and go OK. And we can pop that up there. So next we might want to put a pattern on our card piece underneath. So this one here, our middle layer. So I'm going to go OK. And let's go add. Save data, USB, and again we're going to go to number 4 because that was our next layer. OK, into edit, rotate, and take that there. So because our sentiment is going to be horizontal, I'm going to go also with a pattern that is going to be horizontal. So I'm going to go OK. So it might be that you want to go for a border in that space. It might be that you want to use one of your foil quill designs. If you know that in advance that you are going to want to use a foil quill, then sometimes you're better off using the memory in your machine to save these items, so that you're not having to swap USBs. Otherwise it just gets a bit tedious having to swap between different sticks. Okay, so let's go for a border. And if we go down, let's pick something that's a bit more intricate. Let's go for this one. And we can see that it's going to be way too big, so I am going to bring that down just slightly. And we can see at the moment that it would quite nicely fill that space. So because we're not going to use our rectangle to cut this out on the machine, we can just use that space to just draw. Then when we actually take our card out of our machine, we can still use our die to cut it out. So I'm going to move that piece down towards the bottom temporarily, so I can go and get that one out of the way. So I'm going to go OK, and finally I'm going to go back to my save data, USB, And there we go. Went too far. And let's go for our background layer. So this is our white layer, complete with our outside edge. So I'm thinking we could try and do a little bit of jiggery pokery. Now jiggery pokery tends to be much more able to do it before I go too far. Let's move me home out the way, because there's a few little bits and pieces that I'm just going to redo. So let's move me home down, using the window. Come on, window up here, thank you. Okay, I'm going to delete those a second. Now I'm going to bring that in again. So make sure we've got this top section here clear. So add to save data. Down, 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 down. Down. There we go. Okay. Now there's one little bit just there where it's just picked up a fleck, so we can delete that. But then all these other elements in this space are individual. So for starters, I'm going to group it. It's also slightly on the wonk, so let's try and straighten that up a bit. Okay. And okay again. I'm going to zoom in.
Why you clicked it onto multi-screen?
Because instead of getting everything twice, you get it once. And it does usually work. Because there's nothing since Carol's furniture polish. Okay, so you can see how all our little lines are working in here. Now there's a few little bits and pieces that are a bit wrong we can sort out. But another way that we can work with these is we can actually start to get rid of some of the centre elements so that we can create layers. So I'm going to ungroup. I'm going to zoom in. So the stitching areas, these ones around here, I'm going to delete all of those. So let's zoom. So as long as you're in multi-select, you can still do that zoom.
Let's go a little bit closer if I
And if you do click on the wrong bit, you can just tap it again. So don't think that it's going to be that you wasted your entire. You just try and get that one little bit.
always come back to it.
Yeah. And that's going to be annoying because basically it's sitting in front. So let's go OK. Make sure that outside one's not selected and you can delete that. Okay. I'm going to zoom back in again. Now I'm going to really zoom in, just so. And what I'm thinking is, where we've got our flower designs, I'm going to take these petals out. So what that is actually going to do is means that that area is going to be solid. So we can actually start to colour our flowers. So, like so. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get in the right place. So do the ones you can do first. Yeah, it is where canvas can actually. Let's just have a quick look at my die cut. So if ever you're not sure about something, refer back to your original die cut. So this little shape up here is actually a leaf, so I don't want to take that out. Same with the almost bowl of the flower. So we're just keeping just those petals in our selection, so they can go. looks like it's right. I'm going to take that one and that one, and let's get that over there. So if you have to do this in 2 or 3 goes just to be able to get to the bits that you want to get to, that is absolutely fine too. Don't think you have to do it all at once. Come on. So when we get to that bit. Okay. So I'm just going to click off that one so that it's not round that outside. Let's try and zoom back in and see if it'll let me get to that bottom edge. Dee-dee. Come on. No. Okay. Don't be annoying. There we go. So let's delete that. Okay. So you'll see that now we have some more solid areas where our flowers are, and that means that we're going to be able to actually stick that cutout to the back of our die cut. So I'm going to keep going through until I have all those petals solid. So let's just zoom in again. So that one's right. That one's still being a pain, but that's okay. You can come back. So now you can see that there's our solid flower. There's one there. Now your red line goes around the extent of what is selected, so if it doesn't look like that red box matches that shape, that's how you know that you haven't got the right one selected. So this one, because it's coming down too low, is what makes me think it hasn't got this centre section of our flower. And sometimes it's just a case of just getting it in the right point to be able to get it to find that petal. There's another one. There we go. There's another one just there. Another one just there. Okay. Is that okay? And I'll take those as next. If there's any that you just can't get, don't worry, you can still piece it in. Just you may find that it's just a little bit showing. So I'm going to use my window and let's see if we can get out most of these stitches. So I'm going to close my window up like so. Go OK. I'm going to zoom in. Now if you do accidentally lose that outside line, this is why we save it separately, so we can always drop it back in. So those look like that's all selected correctly. So let's take those out. Okay.
It's a shame when you're zoomed it doesn't allow you to keep the selection arrows.
Yeah, like it does on the DX. Yeah.
I think you could just cycle through them to the digital one.
Yeah, and go, actually, I'm just trying to get to that bit there. Go on, let me get to it. So, if you really can't get to something, if you go with your arrows, you can use your cycle through to get which bit as you want. But it can be a bit tricky to see when you're zoomed out like that whether you have the right one. No, still not going to do it for me. It's so friendly to get that one. I just want that one there. So sometimes your little window can do it, but because you're so zoomed out, it's a bit tricky. No. Still not quite done it. But it's close enough so that you get the idea. So I'm going to go OK, 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 add, so that we can drop that outside rectangle back in. We're going to go down to number 3. OK, drop it in. Edit, rotate. Maybe the other way. Let's have a look. Zoom in a bit. So it needs to nudge over slightly and twist that way. So rotate 1 degree that way. OK. And use our nudge to nudge. And zoom in. Not bad. I'm going to go OK, OK. So now I'm going to look back at my card and think, okay, so I'm going to be filling in some of these areas. Others won't cut out, but that's fine. As long as we get the idea of what we're doing. So I'm going to get my... Ooh, should we go for a nice blue?
Okay, it looks a bit of a faff.
It's only a faff because of the design I've picked. It's much easier on a DX, I have to say. Okay, so I'm going to go for this lovely cornflower blue. Given that I'm using cornflowers. And get your cutting mat. And I'm going to apply that onto there. So bear in mind at the moment we also have our border that we'll cut. So if you want to take that off and then be able to put it back, if you just go to save, you can save the mat as is at this stage, then remove it and then bring it back in after. I don't mind if it cuts it out, it should be okay at that size, and then I can always okay. Everybody say bye in.
Bye, bye everybody.
Okay.
I have to start my day.
Yeah, that's his going, what on earth did I do with my pencil? I had it a second ago. That's Mr. distracting me. Go on, what did I do with it? Staring at me. Oh dear. Go, okay. So, we now have our panel that's going to cut, but with our petals now put in. We've got our home that's going to cut, and we have our border. So I'm going to go, okay, this is where you're going to need your blade, and it's only a standard blade for this one. So I'm going to go for 5 probably, because that's what I was working with yesterday. But no, by the end of yesterday she was playing nicely. I think she just doesn't like being on the live. So, select cut, and off we go. Now I do have my pressure on -5. So because we've got that intricate detail, -5 should be okay. Now it's going to cut in the order that you put it on the mat. Where's Mr. Autoblade? He's gone for today. That's it. You're going to get limited time with him. He's rationed. So if you notice that your mat is starting to do a little bit of shifting like this when it's cutting, it's just a sign that you just need to give your rollers a little clean before it gets too gunky. So mine's needed a bit of TLC. So I'm hoping Ian can do a bit of maintenance with you later this week. Won't be a very long stream obviously, because we'll have to dash off to work. Otherwise it's just boring watching it go in and out. So any other questions on things like the canvas upgrades, what you can do on the DX that you can't do on the ZM, and so on and so forth? Competition, well, challenge, the final challenge. There is going to be a decision made on Friday, so that we can do that on stream, as well as launching the new challenge. So we did a poll on the group as to how you would like us to do challenges in future, and the overwhelming result was to have a file that you all could play with. So what I've done is I've taken the members file and I've trimmed it down, right down to a minimum. So those of you that are members are going to be getting this file at the end of the month in its full kit form, whereas the challenge is going to get the bare bones. So with no instruction, we want you to see what you come up with, and it will be really interesting. So the members this month will get an instruction sheet and lots of inspiration. So our DT are currently playing with the file at the moment and creating cards with it. And then instructions can be created. And I've already done a video of it as well for our DT. There you go. Who needs Mr. Waterblade? We'll see how it goes when all the detail pops out. So, first of all, let's get our border off. Now, this is one of the times that I do prefer a metal spatula where we've got lots of detailed, intricate bits, so that I can get underneath it and using the flat edge just kind of scoop it off the mat like so. Let's get back in there. There we go. So let's take these little bits out. There we go. One border. And I'm just going to take those little pieces off my mat too. And now for the next bit. So again, with our home, we've got a few fragile little joins between our letters. So it's worth just taking your time. Approach it from a more solid space if need be. So like the bottom of the M. And same with the E. And then lift off. And there's our home. And if you want to save the little heart for decoration somewhere else, you can do. Same way that you can cut off the little hearts on the waist as well. Now for the fun bit. So that you can see how this works. We can lift this off carefully. Carefully. Like so. And we can see when we lift it off why some areas just could not be deleted. So let's get that there. So that we can pop out this little background section. So sometimes it does go a little bit wrong with its cut lines. Let's get the mat out of the way. So everything else we can just scrape off in a bit. If there's any little bits that you want to save where it hasn't done the label piecing properly, then the mat's a good way of storing them as well. So if these bits we know are wrong, that bit's a petal, I think. Oh, don't drop it on the floor. So now if I bring my die cut back in and place it over the top, you can see where we need to get this background sections out. So to do that, we can use a slice or a knife, and we can finish off the lines that the scanning cut couldn't do. So that one's cut, and that one there isn't, so chop that there. Then hopefully that should just pop out like so. With this one here, again, it's just pulled a little bit there, so we can just give it a little bit of a helping hand. And there we go. This one up here, let's see, where's that still attached? Just there. And usually once you've freed up the little section that it's just clinging to, you can pop it out with your knife. There we go. And it's just where the scanning cut hasn't quite joined the lines. Like so. And this one down here. It comes down there. I'm just going to trim that like that to lift that out. Come on, up you come. So scanning, certainly on the CM, is not a perfect art yet. But, you know, it's the first machine that's able to do it. And I think that's pretty amazing. Okay. going to do first of all is I'm going to stick those two together. Then what I can do is I can layer it up, stick it onto a card, and then we can rescue any of the little pieces off our cutting mat and put those back in to finish off our flowers. So one of the things you can do with your die cut is if you apply your double-sided adhesive before you cut it out, then you can just peel off the backing. And I wish I'd done this at a particular moment because I can't find the end of my double-sided. There we go. So I have some pretty strong double-sided tape here. Now, but the other thing that I would normally do when I'm taking my time and doing this properly is just trimming a little bit off that cornflower edge so that you don't get like a blue halo around your white. Particularly if you're going to mount this onto a white card after, because otherwise sometimes you can see where you haven't quite got it lined up, because we're human at the end of the day. Okay, press that down. Now time for the fun bit, getting the backing papers off. Yeah, all becomes clear when you suddenly start putting it together and you're going, aha, that works. So what you could then do is then in your next layer, you could keep that as is and then delete like the centres of your flowers here. So this this be green, and same, you might put a green leaf in there and in there, so that you actually build it up as a layer. And the more layers you build, the more tile-like it gets. Now let's get the right way around. Always a good start. Now I'm lining this up, or trying to, by the centre panel, because if need be, I can always trim down the outside. Like so. And there we go. So now you can see that we start to have our blue flowers. And I didn't do too bad a job lining up. There's one little bit there, but I'm not going to be too worried about that because it's tiny. Okay, so that one's going to drop out on me. Oh no. Okay. Then we said we were going to have our centre panel, like so. So you can put this flat if you want to, or if you want to raise it up, you can do. For speed, I'm just going to use some PVA glue. So onto the back. Doesn't take a lot. It's one of the reasons why I like that PVA. Pretty strong and pretty quick to set as well. Then we have our border. So make sure you have it the right way up. So because that's in that same colour, I can just apply that on there. And at this point, I'm not going to trim it off yet. I'm just going to decide what I want to do, if I want to mount this panel onto a bigger card, which you could do, or if you want to go onto it's probably an A5. Which will allow a bit of a border around. Okay. So I'm just going to pop that like that. Try and get it straight. Not bad. a little bit there, but I'm going to cover that up anyway. So now with our next layer we can go foam tape, if you have some, or some little pop-ups. So let's go for some of these. Now this is not the way I would usually recommend doing this. It's usually better with tape for this size, but they're just what I happen to have in my adhesive tub at the minute. So I think next on my shopping list is some little round foam dots. I don't know if any of you have seen Jennifer Maguire's latest video, but that looks really fun, and it's something that we could do a lot with the shapes on our Scan and Cut. So I will definitely be getting some little foam dots to have a go with that. Must admit, I did spend my time watching it and thinking you could do that with a brad, but then when you see how freely it moves, it's like, well, yeah, that's a bit of a no-brainer then. As I said, I wouldn't normally recommend doing it this way. Usually I keep these for more detailed die cuts and things. There we go. Yeah. Because now I have to take off all these little individual ones. When I was at my first job, the office got me a birthday card. And they knew I made cards at the time. So they went for the most handmade looking commercial card they could find. And on the front was this lovely raised panel. And it had been popped up with these little foam pads like this. And then promptly, rather than bothering to take all the bits of foam pad off, the backing release off the foam pads, they had splattered it with glue and stuck it onto the front of the card, which is all very well. But of course, then it's still got its backing paper. So what does it do? It comes off. I may have taken it off and reused it on something else. You never know. There we go. So on this one you don't see too much detail of the border, but hey ho. But you could cut that from stiff vellum, so you can get thicker vellum that you use for 3D projects, which is quite cool, and that would look really lovely to do that with. Vellum's in a bit of short supply at the moment. Few and far between. I was reading the other day that we only have one place in the whole of the UK that can manufacture vellum at the moment. Which is such a shame, because I love doing things like parchment craft and layering up with translucent papers. So I'm going to pop this up too. If you want to give it more body when you're doing this, what you can do is cut 2 or 3, stick them together, and then you can always go over the top with glossy accents so they look more like they are enamelled. Or, if you're feeling brave, you can use a resin kit to do it instead. And let's just get the ends of that E. Now, fitting this one on the end could be interesting. There we go. Because my squares aren't quite square, put it narrow side round. It does look nice with the teal, you're quite right. I do like having different cutting mats that I can kind of slide underneath sometimes, and you think, oh yeah, that would look nice with grey or That'll look nice with the pink. And then I have the light blue messy one, which kind of has every colour under the sun on it now. And no matter how much you clean your cutting mat, you never get it back perfect. Certainly with some of the things I use anyway. Okay. So now I'm going to line that up to the middle, like so. Nice 3D card. Let's go freehand. Just trim this up. There we go. There's always going to be one little bit that I didn't quite push enough on. There we go. First bit. But yes, teal would look nice, so let's see if I can find a piece of teal that I can pop underneath. There might be one in my little collection here. That looks quite promising. It's not quite there. Next sheet maybe. Oh, look at that. Spot on. So the card that I've used for both the die cutting and the background is the Paper Mania textured cardstock, just because it saves me cutting into a whole piece of 12 by 12, which feels somewhat wrong. So then if we put that onto our teal, we can go OK. Let's give that a little, if I flick it over actually, so I'm working on the back, I can give it a pencil mark just so I know where I'm cutting. And I'm going to go slightly outside my die cut and up there. Now, so long as my cuts are straight, I don't mind too much. Get my trimmer. Time is whizzing by this morning, isn't it? Let's get my pencil mark lined up with my cutting line, and hopefully you can see that just about. Might be a little bit pale for you. I'm going to cut that across there, like so. Rotate to find my next pencil mark and line that up just there. Flick it back the right way. So now I can get my glue. Bits on the back of my flowers. And around the outside. And then it's just a case of just finding a card back that will fit. Ooh, don't shake. And there we go. So you have a few seconds wiggle room with the glue. And there we go. Press that down. And we can then work out where our little pieces go. I think that is that one. That looks promising. a little bit of glue in that well. And pop that down and through. Now you may need to just give it a little bit of a helping hand to get through that first layer. So let's get a little pokey tool. Don't need to poke it out very far. I'm just going to feed it through and under, like so. And it's just because our bottom layer isn't quite lined up. So we'll get that in. A little bit of patience. Next bit looks like this top section up here actually. No, not quite. Okay. There. So it's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. But hopefully you all have the idea of how it's supposed to work. So now, when we put up the challenge kit, you can have a go with that one too. And let's rescue some of the other petals off. So, I like the knife that you trim the edge with. Where would I find one like it? Well, I know exactly where you can get it from. Because I saw it on there the other day and I went, oh, that's my knife. And it is a Fiskars finger knife and you can get it from Hobbycraft. So that one's a petal that I need. That one's a petal I need. That one's a petal I need. That one I'm going to leave as a leaf. That one's a petal. And that one's a petal. That's that one. And that one. Come on, go from there. Now the question is, can I remember how much it was? Can I heck like? But yes, that's where you need to go. It's Hobbycraft and they do it in there. I also have a purple version by Dovecraft, but they're a little harder to get hold of, so I don't tend to use them as much on stream anymore. If I can help it. But if my Fiskars one goes missing, I feel like somebody's chopped the end of my arm off. Because I'm so used to using it now. It's one of those things that you kind of, once you've practiced with it, you'll be like, yeah, hey, why haven't I done this sooner? Okay, looks like that's that piece. That can go in there. And then we have this piece to go in there. Then we have these two little curly pieces. And that one looks like it goes in there, like so, and drop that in. And that can go in there. Then we've got this big bit here, which that's on that goes there. And we have our big petal here. I'm still missing a few bits and pieces of triangles. So we're looking for a wiggly, and I can't see it on there. It's like looking, aha, I can see it. See that? You can't say that I'm not resilient. Persistent, that's the word I'm looking for. Persistent. There we go. And there's a little triangle written there, but I'm not too bothered about that. So long as most of our petals are done, we can call that a done deal. So now we just need to decide if we want to keep the edges of our border or not. I think because my particular material in the middle here goes up so much, I think it needs to keep those to make the rest of it make sense, so to speak. So then I will pop that on a card, and this is one where I usually use my cutting mat to kind of give me a guide for how big I want to go. So if you use the measurements on the bottom of your cutting mat, you're looking at the outside edges of your border, and that's coming up as 8 inches. So you could either go to a 10 by 7, so that you end up having a card that is huge with this little panel in the middle, or you could go to an 8 by 8 and literally have that so it goes edge to edge. The choice is yours. So I will pop that on a card, and I will pop that on the group later. Can your knife be for left-handed as well as right-handed? Yes. So what it is, it's literally slide your index finger through, and getting that right way round to start with is really weird. So it is that if you put it on your desk, your finger section should curl upwards. So you put that through, then you'll feel straight away that you've got lots of leverage on that knife. So then as you put your fingers down, you're going to hold it like it's a pencil for the rest of it. So you've got your thumb and middle finger either side, and then you can just literally take it where you need to. I find I have far greater control over this than over the slice. The slice is really good for doing like freehand scrolly stuff, but when it comes to doing straight edges, I much prefer using this one. I find I've got a lot more control over both where the knife is going, but also the angle of the blade. So if you're cutting things like foam board with it, you can actually start to use it to shape the edges. I would show you what I mean, but I can't, because I can't show you yet. But come sort of the end of the month, I will show you a project that we can do that with, and you can have a lot of fun. So you're going to need to get some lights in for the end of the month if you fancy it. I might just put it up as a workshop so that you can actually join in, and then I can give you a full contents list for the kit. Okay, so bye Deb. I wonder if I just pop a bit of card underneath so you can see that a little bit better. Now, I just happen to have just here an 8-inch adaptable. Yes, I think it's an 8-inch. You know, you have those ones where you think, is it? Yeah. So, if I pop that on there, you can see that. Ta-da! I'm done. So I really like that. I think that's quite funky. So I've had those dies for a while, and I've been wanting to show you that technique, but I thought, well, if I show you on a CM, it'll be so much easier on a DX for you all. So those of you that have CM have had a bit of hand holding to do it, because it's a bit more fiddly, because the screen's smaller for starters. So if you do go for a DX, get the bigger screen, because it saves on the old eyes, especially mine. Yeah, it is lovely. I'm happy with that. Job done. So for the rest of the day I'm going to be busy making. But if you do have any questions, you can always message me or message the page, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. I do tend to have phone show me the social media so I can keep an eye. You're welcome, Carol, and definitely have a go. So it's a whole way of extending what you can do with your dies, because you can make that bit solid rather than doing paper piecing. You can actually do it so that you have it as an open panel if you want to. So you can punch an aperture through your card and then just have that so it's like open fretwork. And it's one of the advantages of using dies is that we can do all these lovely fine borders, but then we can use our scanning cut to actually go, well, okay, it can't cut this bit, but it can cut that when it has that solid panel inside. Okay. And you're welcome, Delcy. And I will let you all go. Enjoy your day. And I will be back tomorrow when I'm going to be doing some direct cutting so that I can show you how we can work with that too. So you will need a pattern paper pad where you have elements that are separate to each other. So what I mean is you can see background colour all the way around so that we can actually do some direct cutting the normal way. Then you'll also need a pattern that may not be as obvious so that we can talk about using the colour. And if that doesn't work, what do you do? So I will show you how to fix scanning issues too. So take care and bye.